Imagine being 17, full of life, and having the world at your feet, only to vanish into thin air in broad daylight. On a hot August afternoon in 2013, Alexis Murphy walked out of her house with a smile, heading for a quick shopping trip. She was a social media star in her town, always posting, always connected, but suddenly, the posts stopped. The phone went dead. The only thing left behind was a few seconds of grainy security footage from a local gas station footage that would eventually expose a truth more terrifying than anyone could have imagined. Today, we are diving deep into the final hours of a life cut tragically short, and how a single piece of evidence hidden in plain sight changed everything. Welcome back to the crime chapter. Before we get into the chilling details of this investigation, do me a quick favor and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us keep bringing these important stories to light, and you won't want to miss the updates we have coming up. Now, let's look at the day that changed the quiet community of Nelson County forever. It was August, a typical Saturday in Virginia. Alexis Murphy was a rising high school senior, known for her sharp wit, her love for volleyball, and her massive presence on Twitter. To her friends and family, she was the glue that held everyone together. That evening, around 7 p.m., she told her parents she was heading to Lynchburg to do some back-to-school shopping. She hopped into her silver 2003 Nissan Maxima, waving goodbye, expecting to be back in just a few hours. Nothing about her departure felt wrong. There were no warning signs, no strange phone calls, just a teenager heading out for some errands. But as the hours ticked by and midnight approached, the silence from her end became deafening. Alexis was someone who lived on her phone. The fact that she wasn't responding to texts or posting updates was the first red flag that sent her family. By the next morning, the police were involved. When a teenager goes missing, the first 24 hours are the most critical, and investigators knew they had to move fast. They started by tracking her digital footprint and checking every security camera along the route to Lynchburg. That's when they found the footage from the Liberty gas station in Lovingston. In the video, Alexis is seen entering the store. She looks relaxed, totally unaware that she is being watched. But the footage also showed something else. A man named Randy Taylor was seen in the same vicinity, and at one point, he even held the door open for her. It seemed like a small, polite gesture, but to investigators, this was the first link in a chain that would lead to a nightmare. While you're listening to this, I want to hear from you in the comments. Do you think small-town security is enough to keep people safe nowadays? Or is it too easy for people to disappear? Let us know what The investigation shifted gears when Alexis's car was found 2 days later. It wasn't in Lynchburg where she said she was going. Instead, it was found abandoned in a movie theater parking lot in Charlottesville, nearly 30 miles away. The car was locked, and there was no sign of a struggle, but Alexis was nowhere to be found. This discovery turned a missing person case into a high-stakes search for a predator. Authorities began digging into the background of the man from the gas station, Randy Taylor. It turned out he lived in a small, secluded trailer not far from where Alexis was last seen. When police first questioned him, he had a story ready. He claimed that he did meet Alexis and that they had gone back to his trailer to smoke marijuana with another man. He insisted she left his place safely with this mysterious third person. It was a classic blame-a-ghost offense, but the evidence was about to. When forensic teams entered Randy Taylor's trailer, they weren't just looking for clues, they were looking for Alexis. What they found was chilling. Despite his claims of a casual hangout, the scene inside suggested something much more violent. They found a single diamond stud earring that matched the ones Alexis was wearing in her last photos. They found a human hair caught in a piece of furniture, and most significantly, they found a broken fingernail. DNA testing later confirmed that these items belonged to Alexis Murphy. There was also a bloodstain on a rolled-up rug that Taylor had tried to hide. The hidden truth was starting to emerge from the floorboards and the shadows of that cramped trailer. Even though Taylor kept insisting he was innocent, the physical evidence was screaming otherwise. As the news of the evidence broke, the community was in shock. How could a 17-year-old girl disappear from a public gas station and end up in the clutches of a man with a history of strange behavior? The realization that Alexis might never come home started to sink in, but the investigators were far from done. They began looking into Randy Taylor's past and found that he had been linked to other disappearances before. This wasn't just a one-time impulse. It looked like the work of a serial predator who had finally slipped up by being caught on that Liberty gas station camera. The footage didn't just show a girl buying a drink. It showed the moment a predator chose his target. We're going to pause here for a second. If you're finding this story as gripping as we are, please share this video with someone who loves true crime documentaries. It helps the crime chapter grow and allows us to keep investigating these cases in detail. We are about to get into the trial, the shocking revelations about Randy's past, and the long, painful road the Murphy family had to walk to find justice. The story only gets more intense from here, as the search for Alexis's body continues long after the cameras stopped rolling. Stay tuned for the second part, where we reveal how a secret kept for years finally came to light, and what it took to bring a monster to justice. The evidence inside the trailer was overwhelming, but the biggest challenge for the prosecution was yet to come. In many states, proving a murder without a body is an incredibly difficult task. Randy Taylor's defense team knew this and leaned heavily on the idea that without Alexis being found, there was no proof a crime had actually been committed. They stuck to the story of the mysterious third man, trying to create reasonable doubt in the minds of the jury. However, the prosecution had something more powerful than just a story. They had a trail of digital and physical breadcrumbs that led straight to Taylor's doorstep. They presented cell phone records that showed Taylor's phone and Alexis's phone were in the same location at the same time right at his trailer shortly after she disappeared from the gas station. The data showed that her phone went silent forever while it was within range of his property. This wasn't just a coincidence. It was a digital thing. During the trial in 2014, the atmosphere in the courtroom was heavy. Alexis's family sat in the front rows, wearing purple, Alexis's favorite color, holding on to each other as the gruesome details of the trailer search were read aloud. The prosecution described Randy Taylor as a calculated predator who had used a moment of perceived kindness at the gas station to lure a young girl into a trap. They showed the jury the blood-stained rug and the broken fingernail, explaining that these weren't just random items, but the remnants of a desperate struggle for life. The defense tried to argue that Taylor was just a lonely man who made poor choices, but the jury wasn't buying it. It took them only a few hours of deliberation to return with a verdict. Randy Taylor was found guilty of first-degree felony murder and abduction with the intent to defile, even with a guilty verdict, and 2 life sentences handed down. The Murphy family felt a void that no courtroom victory could fill. Their daughter was still missing. For years, the question of where is Alexis haunted Nelson County. Randy Taylor, even after being convicted, refused to give up the location of her remains. He used it as a bargaining chip, trying to negotiate a lighter sentence or better conditions in prison, showing a total lack of remorse for the pain he had caused. This is often the cruelest part of these cases. The perpetrator maintains control even from behind bars by withholding the one thing the family needs for closure. I want to take a moment here to ask you all to share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think laws should be stricter for criminals who refuse to reveal where their victims are hidden? It's a debate that many families of the missing. Years passed, and while the headlines faded, the search never truly stopped. The FBI and local authorities continued to follow leads, scouring the dense woods and rural landscapes of Virginia. It wasn't until late 2020, over 7 years after she vanished, that a breakthrough finally occurred. Human remains were discovered on private property in a remote area of Nelson County. The location was rugged and difficult to access, which is likely why it had stayed hidden for so long. After months of careful forensic testing and DNA verification, the news the world had been waiting for was finally confirmed. Alexis Murphy had been found. She was finally going home. The discovery didn't change Taylor's sentence, but it stripped him of his final bit of power. He could no longer hold her location. The recovery of Alexis brought a wave of mixed emotions. There was relief that she was no longer alone in the woods, but there was also the fresh sting of grief as the reality of her death was officially confirmed. Her family released a statement thanking the community for never giving up on her. They spoke about her vibrant spirit and how they wanted her to be remembered, not as a victim in a headline, but as the girl who loved her family, her school, and her life. This case serves as a dark reminder of how quickly a normal day can turn into a tragedy, but it also shows the power of a community that refuses to forget. Through the work of investigators and the persistence of her loved ones, the hidden truth was eventually brought into the light. As we wrap up this story on the crime chapter, it's important to remember that behind every security camera clip and every forensic report, there is a human life and a family left behind. Alexis Murphy's legacy continues through scholarships and community awareness programs that aim to keep other young people safe. If you found this deep dive into the case informative, please don't forget to hit that like button and share this video. Your support helps us continue to tell these stories with the respect and detail they deserve. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our next investigation where we look into cases that are still waiting for their truth to be exposed. Thank you for watching, and stay safe out there. We'll see you in the next one.